Ping, which stands for point, evidence, explain, is the technique by which you incorporate evidence into your essay to support the points that you make. We're using this technique in a literary essay, but it is the accepted means by which you can write in a research report or scientific dissertation or any other form of written argument or proof. This technique is used in every field: business, law, science, math, medicine, biology, chemistry, engineering, and so on. Formal writing nearly always demands that you support your ideas with evidence. In English and many other subjects, you need to include specific quotations or references to the text. The acronym P helps you to remember how to do this. P stands for point, so first you state the point that you're trying to make in your writing. The first E stands for evidence. Next, you provide the evidence from the text to support the specific point that you're making. This evidence can be in the form of a quotation, a paraphrase, or simply a reference to the text. In this presentation, there will be examples of all three forms of evidence. The second E stands for explain. Finally, you explain the evidence and make the connection between that evidence and the point that you're making. First, I'll demonstrate the P process using a quotation and incorporating it into my essay. The full essay won't appear here. In this presentation, I'll be using examples from a novel by Native American author Sherman Alexie called The Absolutely True Diary of a Part-Time Indian. The essay is about how the author describes the experience of living in poverty from the point of view of the main character and narrator. Here's a paragraph that I wrote about Junior's attitude toward poverty and how being poor impacts him. You'll see this same paragraph over again on the next 3 slides, where I explain how P applies. I think it is really cool that my cut and paste from the novel ebook automatically brought the bibliographic reference with it at the bottom of the page. Always remember that when you're referring, quoting, or paraphrasing from a text, you need to provide the source information. So here it is again. The bold underlined sentences are the P, the point I'm trying to make, which in this case is a point about something the narrator communicates in the novel. I'm going to read this part. In the chapter called Why Chicken Means So Much to Me, Junior describes how being poor destroys self-esteem. Self-esteem is tied up with identity, and in his case, his Native American identity is connected with poverty. The bold underlined sentence in this slide contains the evidence, the first E, which in this case is a quotation from the novel. Note that I also included the page reference in brackets right after the quotation. So here it is. He says, you start believing that you're poor because you're stupid and ugly, and then you start believing that you're stupid and ugly because you're Indian. And because you're Indian, you start believing that you're destined to be poor. Junior is saying that his Native American identity means that poverty is inevitable for him, and it also means that he is stupid and ugly. So he cannot be proud of being Native American, because it also means being poor, stupid, and ugly. So that was the last sentence. Finally, in the last sentence, I rephrase what the narrator says, connecting it to my point in the first sentence. This is the second E, explain. I connect the ideas in the first and last sentences by using words that are related, like self-esteem, identity, proud of being Native American, and destined. I also repeat words from the quotation itself, like poor, stupid, and ugly. So far, I've demonstrated how to incorporate a quotation. Now let me show you how the same method works to incorporate a paraphrase. In this paragraph, I've included P and E in the first sentence. The first part of this sentence is my point, that Junior, the main character and narrator of the novel, denies some of the common myths about poverty. In the second half of that sentence, I paraphrase or rewrite in my own words what Junior actually said. So here, I've included both E's, evidence and explain, in the last part of the paragraph. At the top, in italics, you can see the actual quote from the novel. Poverty doesn't give you strength or teach you lessons about perseverance. No, poverty only teaches you how to be poor. My paraphrase includes all of the ideas in this quotation, but since I used my own words, I was able to connect with my point and provide evidence and explanation at the same time. This is one of the advantages of using a paraphrase. I tried to connect the words from the text with my words using color. So in italic text at the top, you can see that Junior says that poverty doesn't, quote, give you strength. But my words in red in the bottom section are the myth that poverty makes a person stronger. The second color is green. Junior says, teach you lessons about perseverance, whereas my words in green at the bottom say, teaches them to persevere. Finally, in purple, you see Junior says, poverty only teaches you to be poor, whereas I said, the only thing that poverty teaches is how to continue to live in poverty. Finally, I'm going to demonstrate how to use a reference to the text. This is the easiest way to show evidence, and like paraphrasing, you can mix together your explanation and the evidence. Also, it can refer to an event which doesn't have something that you can actually quote. This paragraph describes the scene and makes reference to what happened and how Junior was feeling, but it does not quote or paraphrase his words exactly. The point P is that poverty hurts emotionally. It is agony. The evidence, E, is the reference to the scene. Finally, the narrator shows how poverty can be agony. Junior desperately wants to help his dog Oscar by taking him to the vet, but Junior's family could not afford the cost of a visit to the vet, so Junior's father had to shoot Oscar instead. Junior ran away to avoid hearing the boom of the gun, but he couldn't run fast enough to avoid hearing it. The explanation is in the last line, which is in bold and underlined. The reader cannot avoid sharing the agony Junior feels and agreeing that this would be the worst part of poverty, feeling helpless to ease his suffering and listening to the boom of the gun while your dad kills your best friend. So just to recap, don't forget to include each of the steps when you write your essay. P, make your point. E, give the evidence from the text, either a quotation, a paraphrase, or a reference. And the second E, explain how this evidence supports your point. And of course, don't forget to give the page numbers for each of these.